Hi, I hope everyone is enjoying Convocation. Sorry I couldn't be here to learn more about what you're all up to. I'm sure I would have had plenty of questions about it because, well, that's my job. I'm Amanda Vinicky, the State House Bureau Chief for WUIS. Asking probing questions is a skill that I, along with Illinois Issues editor Jamie Dunn, who you'll hear from live and in the flesh shortly, got to put to use in October before a statewide audience for the first general election gubernatorial debate. I'm going to spend a few minutes talking about the prep work, what goes on in a debate on the front end. Namely, how did we come up with the questions asked of then Governor Pat Quinn and now Governor Bruce Rauner, and why? To prepare, WSIU TV's Jack Titchener, the moderator, H. Wayne Wilson of WTVP, Jamie and I had a couple of conference calls to mull all of this over. We wanted to be sure that the main topics, pensions, the budget, were touched on, but didn't consume the entire hour. That's not to say there weren't revisions leading up until just before showtime. In news, and especially during campaigns, rapid shifts necessitate being able to go with the flow. And while surely both Quinn and Rauner practiced, candidates hire consultants to pepper them with questions and to give them feedback, we had no such rehearsal. It's worth pointing out these are formal events with strict rules agreed to in advance, with set times of how long a candidate has to answer a question, in this case, 1 minute each. I wasn't personally involved in working out an arrangement for this debate. Much of that was done by the League of Women Voters. But there's a great recent example of how rules can matter to candidates who are spending millions of dollars and fighting for their political lives. Fangate, when Florida Governor Rick Scott refused to begin a debate because his opponent had an electric fan, and that was an apparent violation of a no props agreement. Which is to say that all debates like this are highly scripted events. And yet, they're also one of the rare times a candidate running for statewide office is not able to control his own message. Sure, we reporters can shout questions all we want, but at an average appearance, they don't have to and often don't answer. No joke, I've been with Governor Rauner and asked simple questions like, "Nice day, eh?" and gotten no response. In a debate, there's no out. It's live, it's televised. They can't run or stay quiet. What candidates can do, though, is stick to a script, which is where debates are an opportunity, and crafting questions is a different matter than crafting questions for a press conference or a regular event. For me, part of the objective in coming up with debate questions is to somehow move them off script. It's not about tricking the candidates or entertainment. It's just that we've seen the commercials, heard the catchphrases ad nauseum, and what good is that doing voters? A debate's an opportunity to learn more. Of course, these guys are pros. It's not likely they'll use the debate to suddenly come out with a brand new program or platform or to reverse course. Let's take pensions as an example. Arguably the biggest issue facing Illinois, or at least one of them. How can you have a debate without asking about it? And yet both Quinn and Rauner had already been asked dozens of times by then what they would do if the 2013 landmark pension law were to be found unconstitutional. Rather than ask that same question again, I asked this one. You both claim that the state cannot afford the current level of retirement benefits for public employees. Do you think that the framers of the Illinois Constitution made a mistake by including the pension protection clause that says retirement benefits shall not be diminished? And should Illinois amend the Constitution now to remove that amendment? Jamie did something similar. She asked whether the candidates would favor refinancing the state's long-term pension debt. She moved the question away from the benefit side because we already knew what that answer would be. I also think a debate is a good chance to learn more about how candidates think, to show voters and journalists a glimpse of who the contenders actually are and where they're coming from, and to ask the questions that are just natural, the ones you hear people talking about in everyday conversation. That was the thought behind asking this question. For you, Mr. Rauner, you often brag about your lack of government experience. Name one time that you have hired a novice to serve at the executive level as a CEO, and how did that go? Of course, there are loads of questions I'd have loved to ask, but that ended up on the cutting room floor because there wasn't enough time. In the end, we only got as many as 5 questions each. As they say, the best laid plans of mice and men oft go astray. To hear about how it all worked out and whether we accomplished our prerogative, here's Jamie Dunn.